Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
What's going on, everybody? This is Critical Failure. Oh my goodness, you are listening to Tiger Claw Radio, and this is episode whatever, because I honestly have lost track at this point of the numbers. I've got no idea until it goes up. This week, got a great week. Got a little bit about Torchlight, a little bit about some of the games in the Tiger Score. By the way, March is Ace Pilot Month on the Tiger Score, which comes out tomorrow. So by the time you're hearing this, go get your copy of the PDF. I hope you guys are playing along, playing some games, and listening to some tracks wherever you're at. We got some dandy tracks for you today on TCR. I went looking for brand new stuff on Bandcamp, and I got three really nice albums. We're gonna start things off with a single from. All right, now it's Luck Hash and Walkman, I think, is the name of the single. Yeah, I think I got that right. All right, boys and girls, you're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. I glazed over this when I made my video about the cassette tapes and some of my recent pickups. Excuse me, but I got a hold of a pocket operator. Specifically, the pocket operator arcade type, or the PO20. Is it 20? I don't know. So here's what it is, guys. I got a hold of a drum machine. They make this drum machine kit. It's shaped like a calculator, and it's a bare circuit board, and you get it. And it's for a sequencer. It's a really low price, and it's very simple. And it was kind of an impulse buy late one night on Amazon. I wanted to get something that I could use to, maybe assist in getting me back into music creation. So I started messing with it, and it did exactly that. Now, it is only a drum machine, right? So essentially, at its core, so I can only do so much. I would have to have something else to go along with it, to do a lead. But it opened me up in terms of trying new tools and new ideas, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. But it sounds so different from Famitracker that all of the Famitracker tunes I've put together up at this point, I feel like I have to get that together and make that release as an album soon, so that it doesn't get swept under the rug. So long story short, the new Green Leo album it's not too far away. I rounded up all my files, and I dumped them on the desktop, and I started going through them today after work. And there's some good stuff in there, and at this point I've reached a stage where it's like, all right, all the ideas are here. Is there anything else I can do with these tracks to polish them up before I start mastering and laying them down in a track listing? And there's a few things, but ultimately the material is there at this point, which is a huge step. So that's about it. Apart from that, I've just been playing with this pocket operator, and then I had something called the Korg Monotron Duo show up at my house today. And this is an analog synth, but it's a really tiny one, and it cost me about $35. And I have it hooked into the soundboard so you can hear what it sounds like. But there, woo, hear that? It's basically a noisemaker. And I know it's the dumbest thing, but I'm just in love with it. Woo! Woo! This is the biggest waste of money. The biggest waste. Oh my gosh. Biggest waste of money. But not the biggest waste of money because I'm having fun with it. The pocket operator. Actually, what's the closest I can get this to making it actually sound like a tone? That's pretty close. All right, hold on. That's just this is the whole range of the output there, by the way. There we go. Okay, that's I can do something with this. I can do something with it. What I got to do is I got to get an extra cable so I can hook up the drum machine into the board as well. Maybe we could do some jam sessions or something. Get the drum machine going, get the duo going. Get some other stuff. I don't know. I need something for a solid lead. I don't think this is going to cut it for a lead. We need a cleaner sound. That's pretty clean. Nope, no it isn't. Alright, enough playing with that. Wow, we're 9 minutes in already. We haven't been to the van yet. I was worried this wasn't going to be... I wasn't going to have a lot of material this show. But believe me, I do. So, let's do what we do and turn back the clock. We're going to the van, boys and girls. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Morning, everybody. It's 6:22 in the morning on Monday. It's time to go to work. It's the Vancast, everybody. What a weekend it's been. Video games, good times, hard times, everything in between. And now it's Monday. It's the windiest day I think I've ever seen outside. It's so windy. And it's Monday, so all the trash cans are out at the curb waiting to be picked up. It's 6:22 in the morning. Nothing's been picked up yet, and they're all getting blown over. It's pretty awful. So I'm on my way to work. Last night I played Torchlight 2 with Hemrock. And this was a blast from the past. We only played for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, because we had some trouble getting it to work with mods. We were playing it with a large crop of mods, and then it was crashing every time we joined. So we cut it down. It was pretty rough. To start with, I forgot how comfy that the Torchlight games are. You know, that Torchlight 2, you get to the first town, and there's a fishing hole, so you can fish. And also in the Torchlight games in general, both games, the pet mechanics. I love the pet mechanics. Oh my gosh. I never got to have a dog growing up, because my mom hated animals. And then I got married, and my wife doesn't care much for dogs either. So I just never got to have one. So I like a good game where you get to have a dog. And in both Torchlight games, in the first Torchlight game you get to have a dog, and in the second one there's pets but there's no dog. And then if you use the Steam Workshop, you can mod in dogs. So we were playing with a mod pack that had like an expanded pet base. So you could play with, like, as your pet, you could have like skeletons and zombies and stuff like that, and like a succubus or like a lot of different options. But it added the dog back. Yes. So I played as the dog, as my pet. Engineer is my class, and then the dog is the pet. If you turn back the clock to when I first got on Steam, I can't remember exactly when this was, but I can tell you that it was, my counter says I've been on for 9 years, and it was right around my birthday. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm getting ready to cross the 10-year mark, like, in a month. But anyway, when I first got on Steam, the original Torchlight was the game everyone was playing. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute, because I'm getting out of the car to step into the grocery store to get some apples for my work week. Let's see. Hang on everybody. Time to park the car. And we made it. Alright. Be right back. There we go. I made it. Popped into the grocery store. Got some fresh fruit. So I'll be able to make it through the week without needing to stop at McDonald's or anything like that. Anything crazy. So I was talking about Torchlight. And when I first started on Steam. So when I first started on Steam, I was on a message forum, and people were sharing snapshots of like their what they've played over the last 2 weeks. And the games everybody was playing was primarily Team Fortress 2, which at the time was a paid game. It was like $20 or something. My computer couldn't run it, so I didn't really worry too much about it. It looked awesome. And I had seen it, like a physical copy for sale in the store, which I kind of wanted to buy at one point. And thinking back, I really wish I did, because even if I couldn't play it, I wouldn't have had a mercenary badge. I would have had the at least like the silver badge thing for getting it attached to my account in like 2009 or something. Anyway, people were playing a lot of Team Fortress 2, and people were playing Torchlight. Torchlight, I think, was like, it must have been like a brand new game at that time. But that was a huge deal, and people were putting a lot of time into it. Like, I had played Torchlight all the way through, and I think it took me like 10 hours or something. I honestly can't remember. Not a lot. somewhere between 10 and 20. That might be, and that amount of time might be because I started playing through it a second time as well. But that's about what I got out of it. We'll say about 20 hours, a little less than 20. But there were guys who were putting like 100 plus into this game. Like, man, that was the first game that like I didn't know what about, and I saw it on people's like Steam profile as like a game that was being played a lot. It was Torchlight. So when Torchlight 2 came out, that was like a big deal. At least for me, I thought it was a big deal. And Hemrock was nice enough to pick me up a copy so that we could play together. And we really didn't play so much. We played a couple of times, but it was awesome to sit down and play it again. I think the relationship is a lot like, the parallel is a lot like Diablo. How Diablo 1 is all about being in the labyrinth and going straight down as many levels as you can. And then in Diablo 2, you kind of fan out more, and it becomes more of an open world kind of game. That's the same kind of progression. Torchlight 1 is all about going straight down in the dungeon. And then in Torchlight 2, you fan out a little bit. My only real complaint about Torchlight is the class selection. The first game is pretty like, I guess you would say generic or not generic, but traditional. Like you have the fighter, you have the ranger, and then you have the spellcaster. But then they tried to mix it up for the second game, so you have like a berserker and I don't know what else. I think that, and also that they did the same thing with the pets. So consequently, you got like a dog as one of the choices in the first game, and in the second game, by default, there's no dog. You can have like a bulldog, which I guess is it's a dog. It's not the same dog though. You can't have like the husky that you can have in the first game. You get like a bulldog or like a tiny little dog. I don't know. I think the class selection and the pets were better in the first game. But you can fix that easily with mods from the workshop, not like stuff you have to go download yourself and patch in. So, awesome game. And the first game had mods too. I remember modding in a certain vendor. I think it was a fishmonger or something. I haven't played the first game in a long time, but it was really good. Part of me wants to like reinstall the first game and then play that when I can't play multiplayer with Hemrock, because I don't want to push past him in the game. Like I don't want to play that game while he's not on right now, because we're playing through it together. But it was really awesome to play again. I don't know. I played Torchlight 2. That's the whole story. I also sat down this morning with 1942 on the NES, and I played that for a bit. I noticed about 1942 is that the game gets easier if you can make it past like the first stage or so. Because I was getting pretty low scores. And then there's a power up where you can get like wingmen that fly next to your ship. And once you get that power up, then you go from like the 10 to 20,000 point range to the 120,000 point range. Like it becomes a lot easier to amass points at that part of the game. So I'm looking at my, high scores that I've recorded, and they're a little lopsided. I've got a couple that where I've beaten several stages, and then I've got a few like really easy ones. Maybe that's how it should be though for the Tiger score. Maybe like the low scores on the scoreboard should be beatable. I don't know. I do know that I was playing this morning, and I was pushing like 160k points, and I ran out of time, which is a big bummer because that was like my high score. That's the number one spot, and I ran out of time, so I could have pushed it further. Which is really a problem. But yeah, the Tiger score, it's a lot of work. But every time I sit down with one of these games for the Tiger score and I start writing the scores down, I feel like it's getting. I feel like each time the magazine gets better. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's getting late in the month. It's the 25th now. So I've got about a week, like 5 days. No, not it's February. So I've got 3 days left to get this magazine complete. One of the games I wanted to put in the magazine is Solar Striker on the Game Boy. And I haven't played it this month. So I don't know. I'm probably going to do like a top 3 and then just do 3 runs consecutively and be like, these are my dry 3 runs, and that's the best I can do. So, yeah, I wanted Solar Striker to be in there, but I didn't remember that game was around until late in the month. So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll still make it. Thanks to everybody who played pinball. There was a lot of talk about black box pinball after the first issue. It got me really excited to make the second one. So big thanks to everybody who dusted off their copy or did whatever you had to do to play the game. I never did reach the 100,000 point mark to make the paddles disappear. Oh boy, I'm getting on the highway now. This is the first time on TCR in a long time where I did the van cast on the highway. I seem to remember there was a time when I used to do this quite often, but I stopped doing it. And here I am, merging on. I'm in the local lanes now, headed south on the highway. And this is the main artery that takes people from the city up to the burbs. Or in the morning, if you live in the burbs, you ride this thing down into the city. So thousands and thousands of people take this road to commute. So if you take it in the morning during rush hour, it's a parking lot. Same with the afternoon. And for this reason at work, I opted for the early shift. It requires me to get up early in the morning. But this particular road right here that I'm on becomes a lot more bearable. The problem is with less people on the road, the people who are on the road know what's coming and everybody's driving like way too fast. People will go like 65 miles an hour, but be like an inch off each other's bumper. It's like, come on, guys. I get it. You want to get to work. You don't want to get stuck in traffic. It's not worth dying for. Because people die out here all the time, and it doesn't even make the paper. Cars will smash into each other, and people will just explode into bloody messes. And then it might have a post on some like local news blog. You know. And when my work moved us downtown, this was frightening to me, driving on this road to work. It was terrifying. All right. So if I could throw this all to the wind and hang a hard U, which is illegal to do on the highway, and just head home, what would I be playing? I'd probably dust off Solar Striker. The only problem is my Game Boy games are in a cardboard box that's under my bed. And I have a feeling that my wife is still sleeping at this point. So in order to play Solar Striker, I'd have to ninja myself into my bedroom without waking my wife up, pull out the cardboard box that's got all my portable games in it, most of my portable games in it, and fish out Solar Striker. That's a great game, man. I never owned it when I was a kid, but my buddy Engie had it. and he let me borrow his Game Boy at one point. So I remember borrowing his copy of Solar Striker for like a couple of weeks, and that was what got me hooked. And then I can't remember when I actually got a hold of it. I got a hold of it, like my own copy, late in life as an adult. But I borrowed Engie's copy as a kid. I played it like when emulation became a thing, when I was a teenager, and then I got a hold of it as an adult. It's a great game. It's like a what I equate it to. It's a top-down shooting game. A lot like 1942, actually. 1942, but it's set in space. So you're piloting something that looks a lot like an X-wing, and it's for the original Game Boy. So yeah, good music too. This is one of the games that really took advantage of that awesome sound chip that the Game Boy had, you know? I think it'd be fun to play that again. I was playing 1942 this morning and I was just like, yes! Solar Striker. That's an awesome game. But unfortunately I don't have all the pieces available to me to actually dig it out and play it right now. Hopefully this coming weekend. I don't know. We'll make it work. We'll do what we can. Alright, how are we doing here? Alright, boys and girls. I think with that, I'm going to focus on my driving, and I'll see you guys back in the studio. We're back in the studio. Coming up, we got a track from Fail Positive, this is a chiptune album that I found on Bandcamp. I wanted to get something that was chiptune because we've been doing a lot of synthwave, we've been doing a lot of vaporwave. I wanted to go back to the chiptune roots, and I found this album from an artist called Fail Positive, and it appears to be a soundtrack from a game jam. The album is called Smithy of the Fishy, and it says post game jam version. So I have to think this is a soundtrack to some game that was created, and I have no idea. But the origin. But the music is really good, and it's really chilled out and atmospheric. All right. So let's see. Before we get into that, just want to take a minute to thank the patrons. This is a Patreon-sponsored show. Thank you guys for giving of your resources to make sure Tiger Claw Radio can come back every single week. Now, for these guys, I offer the chiptune review, which is coming out. I put that together this afternoon. That'll be coming out this Wednesday. All of the chiptunes that you hear on the show, all the music that you hear on the show, I put it together in like a single mixtape music special, and I do that every couple of months. I also read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen, and they are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, and Darabka. Thank you guys so much. Tiger Claw Radio is surviving on this. This is what's keeping the show alive right now, because I've got a new baby on the way in my house, and believe me when I tell you, boys and girls, that I'm freaking out every second of every day right now. So thank you guys very much. With that, let's listen to the track. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. The second that bass line kicks in, that's the 1980s right there. Maybe not the chiptune sound, but that rhythm, that's great big giant shoulder pads and collars popping and high top shoes at the mall, in the mall eatery. And what a track it is. My goodness. I found that this afternoon. I'm pretty happy with it, boys and girls. That's a free album too. The Fail Positive album. All right, we're going to give this thing a shot, boys and girls. So earlier in the show, I was fooling around with the Korg Monotron Duo, which is that little noisemaker, or analog ribbon synthesizer, as it says on it. Now I got the Pocket Operator hooked up. I want to give you guys a taste of what this thing sounds like. Now, these things are all over YouTube. People have been buying them and hooking them together and making little demos. But yeah, I'm checking this out for the first time. I've had this about a week, actually. Has it been a week? Man, I really don't know. Yeah, it's been a week. It doesn't feel like it. Wow. So I've had this thing about a week, and I mess with it like whenever I get a free minute. And just to give you a quick taste of what it sounds like. So this is a sequence I put together. All right, let's see what we can do with it now. Yep, it needs work. Yeah, there's potential. There's potential. When you get these hardware solutions, there has to be a certain amount of study into really what makes this thing tick. And it took me forever to figure out FamiTracker, to be honest with you. So I think it's going well. It's slow going. It's very slow going. Let's just say I won't be putting out anything on that thing anytime soon. But the FamiTracker album is nearing completion. And hopefully I can have some samples of that next week. So that's been my music exploits. I mean, I told you guys the story about going to the record store and whatever, which happened recently. Let's get back to the video games. Now, there's one more Vancast for the week, and on this one, well, I'll tell you what. Let's just go there. All right? Let's go. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Oh my gosh, it's cold. It's so cold. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's 6:04, and it's freezing cold, and I'm headed to work. It's the Vancast. We're doing this. So I got up this morning early. I rolled out of bed at 4:30, which is early even for me. Went upstairs to Panzer Studios, sat down at my desk, started work on the Tiger Score. This is Tiger Score morning. Went to bed early last night, so I was feeling good. Got on my draft. I was playing 1942. Played some 1942. That's a good game. I rounded out a nice solid top 5 scores with a nice easy bar of entry, but a nice solid top spot. So I felt like I was ready to stand on my 1942 scores. So I moved on to a game called Solar Striker. Solar Striker was one that I played as a kid. I talked about it yesterday on the Vancast. But today I dusted it off and I started playing it. And let's see. I remember as a kid, I really only ever did the first and second levels. It's a hard game. Solar Striker, distinctly, it's a lot harder than 1942. They play very similar, but it's a more difficult game. It's easier to go back to it now on like a modern piece of hardware. Like if you were to play Solar Striker on an emulator, or like more ideally like a Game Boy Advance SP, you'd have an easier time, because this was an original Game Boy game, and the screen refresh rate on the DMG model, the brick model, the original like 1989 Game Boy with 4 AA batteries, the screen refresh rate was not the best. So certain games were blurry. The most popular example people bring up is Castlevania Adventure. Ended up being a very slow-paced game because they wanted it to match up with the screen refresh rate. Like if they made it any more fast-paced, everything would just be blurry and you couldn't figure out what was going on. But modern systems don't have that problem. So, you know, a fast-paced shooter on the old blurry DMG had its problems. I'm not saying it was unplayable. I'm just saying it was a little bit harder to follow. But playing it on a Game Boy Advance SP, much, much better. So it's an easier game to go back to now than it was to play originally. I used to only get through the first stage. I would beat the first stage sometimes, and then I would die on the second stage early on. Well, I was playing this morning and I got to like the 4th stage. So I was having a good time. I got a nice solid 3 scores on the board to use as a starting board, and then I was going to go back to it tomorrow and then again the following day to try and refine it, push that top spot a little higher, and turn a top 3 into a top 5. Alright, so it had been a productive morning for the Tiger score. What else did I do? Mini reviews. Last month we did 2 mini reviews. I started typing out the mini reviews for this month, and the games I chose were Mushihime-sama for the PC, and I chose Captain Skyhawk for the NES. And the reason is because this is the Ace Pilot episode. I wanted to choose 2 shooting games. One to stand in for the modern era. Mushihime-sama is like a super colorful, ultra-modern, Japanese shooter. And Captain Skyhawk is freaking Captain Skyhawk. Everybody knows that game. NES, it's like one of the NES standard games. Ultra common. At one point, I had multiple copies, and I wasn't even buying lots off of eBay. It's just a game that I came across more than once. It's Captain Skyhawk, right? I wrote the entire mini review for Mushihime-sama, which, by the way, when you're doing a mini review, a review that's supposed to be only 1 paragraph, you can't mince words. Every sentence that is written has to be gone over again and again to trim out every single letter that doesn't have to be there, right? It takes work to compress thoughts down to a paragraph that's readable. And then LibreOffice started wigging out, and I am pissed. It's thankfully I'd saved some of it. Like I'm pretty sure my scores from what was the first game I played? From 1942 were all saved. But I lost my mini review of Mushihime-sama, and I lost some of my scores for Solar Striker, and I just was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm going to work. And so now, consequently, I'm leaving for work a lot earlier. So that was a pretty rough experience. I'm not going to lie. But it felt good to play Solar Striker again. And it also felt good to play 1942 for like a 3rd or 4th day in a row. And I felt like I was really hitting a groove with that game. The only problem with 1942 is the same one I mentioned yesterday. A good solid run of that game just takes too long. I have to devote more time to push that top spot further. Right? It's not like let's say I were to play a modern shooter like Mushihime-sama or what's the other one? Dodonpachi. It's another great game that I like. If you crank the difficulty up, Raiden is like this too. If you crank the difficulty way up, each run is going to be much, much shorter. So you can have a run of like Raiden 4 on hard mode, and it'll only take like 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, because, all the monsters will come out of the woodwork and you'll die. And this situation with 1942 is usually what I'm trying to avoid when I play one of those games on hard mode. So, I don't know. I hear that 1943 is much better. Maybe we'll try that another time, but it's too late in the game. The Tiger score needs to come out in a week. I can't, and that's been like my top spot game. I can't just scrap it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take to Twitter today, and I'm going to throw this out there. Hey gang, 1942 on the NES. It's going to be on the Tiger score. You want your score to be on the board? Hit me up right now. Now's the time. So, I had some success the last time I took to Twitter for the fail bag. Got a couple of replies. Maybe we'll get something, you know? I don't know. This issue of the Tiger score has been a little bit more work than the last one. But I also feel like it's going to be a better issue. It's more rounded out. It has a theme. Last month there was no theme. It was just like, here's some games. Let's play together, which is really, what the core purpose is for. So nothing wrong with that. It's just the idea of let's play the Ace Pilot Special. Let's play flying games. Some sort of theme to tie them all together. I think works really well. And I still don't know how to do distribution. I still don't know how this works. When the original Tiger score came out, I took to Gmail and I sent a copy to everybody I could think of at that particular moment. That, and then I have it on mega.nz, which is a nice working means of distribution, but it's not something that I think the everyday person is going to want to do. I need like a good, solid, recognizable page or a link that can that'll hold it, that'll work. I don't know. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet. You know what? I just realized I don't have the heat on. Give me a second here. Give me a second, boys. I've got a nice heated chair in this car. There's a switch I can use that turns on a heater inside the cushion. And I had that on, so I guess I was doing okay, but the heat in the cabin was not on. And it's really ice cold this morning, so had to fix that. So that was the Tiger score. Last night, I mentioned this earlier, I just flopped in bed. I didn't have time to play anything. I didn't have time to do anything. I just didn't have any energy. It was all gone. I wanted to go back for a second helping of Torchlight 2. It didn't happen. I'm getting ready to start Kane and Lynch 2 with Alex Swingle. That didn't happen either. And you know what sucks is all the progress I made this morning, if I didn't lose any progress, would have been absolutely worth it. This whole strategy of let's just go to bed super early and then I'll wake up super early and bang out the Tiger score in the morning. Had Libre Office not wigged out on me, I would say that would have been a viable strategy to go about getting this thing done. So that's a big bummer, but it is what it is. I had fun playing the games. Whatever happened to my document, whatever happens to the Tiger score, I had fun playing the games, and that's what I hope you guys do. You guys can get this thing and play along. I'm hoping this is adding something to the games out there, especially a game like 1942, because if you play 1942 on the NES, you can't help but think this is a game that needs a little something. It's not a bad game. Looks good, plays good, but it's kind of stripped down. So I think just that little extra thing of I'm going to do a high score battle on Twitter, or just that little extra thing of here's the high scores from the Tiger score, I think that could be enough to add something to make a game like 1942 more fun. Just my thoughts. We'll see what we can do in the future. One thing I'm noticing about this issue is I want to get other people written down. 1942 and Solar Striker both are scores are scoreboards that just have my scores on them, and that's something I think that I need to fix somehow. I've got everybody on Raiden 4. We had 4 people compete last year for Raiden 4. I have all those scores down, plus my score for this year after revisiting the game. Plus, since there's an online leaderboard, I just went to the top one and was like, hey, at the time of writing this is the world leader. So there's 5 people. 6 different scores, 5 people. I feel like that's a nice rounded scoreboard. Well, all right. If I were back in my home in Panzer Studios, what would I play? I opened a bunch of cassette tapes last night. I had been waiting for a bunch of tapes to show up. They all kind of showed up at once. And then I didn't have the time or energy to play them, which is a big drag. They were mostly tapes from Bandcamp. Bandcamp tapes take a long time to show up. If you go to any random Bandcamp site and you order physical media like a tape or a record, it could take a couple of months for it to show up at your place. I don't know why that is, and not every dealer is that way, but I had been waiting on a bunch of stuff, and I got 4 packages all at once, which is just cool. A couple of tapes. One from Business Casual, the Doobie Douglas tape that we played last week or a couple weeks ago. That showed up, so I have that cassette. And I got an album from Andrew Dice Clay. I'm going through an Andrew Dice Clay kick right now. I bought The Day the Laughter Died, which was that album where he did like a double CD album and he just like bombed it up for 2 hours. I bought the cassette tape version of that album and some others. The Wilt Chamberlain album finally showed up and it came with a t-shirt, which is pretty cool, but I didn't have the energy to play any of this, so now I just have a stack of tapes that's sitting on my desk at home. So if I could play anything, probably be a shooting game and cassette tapes, because I played some shooting games this morning, and I had a lot of fun, and that's probably, if I could be anywhere, that's where I'd be right now. But I've got to go do my day at work. Yesterday was a particularly difficult day at work, and I know there's a mountain of stuff waiting for me, and there's people depending on me, so I have to go do what I have to do. And I don't have space in my head at this moment to meditate on what I would do if I could just, turn around and leave, because I can't leave. I've got a responsibility, and I'm gonna pound through it like the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah, because that's what I do. And for you guys out there, I'll see you back in Panzer Studios. And if you're somewhere right now where you got a control in your hand, play an extra round for me. I'll see you there. You know what, boys and girls? I did make it to the office that day, and I knocked that day at work right out. And now I'm back, right where I said I want to be. I made it. And I make a special point to tell you that and let you know, when you're walking right into a day you know it's not going to be good, I want you to know it's not going to last forever. Over on Business Casual, they released a brand new album. They release albums all the time, but this one got a cassette release, which they only do for the major releases. This is called Kabuki Boogie. That's the name of the album, and the artist is called Superflat. Let's take a listen, then we'll do the fail bag. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Let me introduce you to somebody. The Funk Master.
Somebody.
Give me a beat!
dig it, man. I dig it. I dig it indeed. I'm still debating on whether or not I'm actually going to seek out that cassette, but that's the best business casual release in quite some time, in my opinion. At least the best one since the what was it? I want to say Otaku Boogie, but that's not what was it called. Otaku Quest. Who did that one? Oh well, I can't remember. It's a free album. Head over to Bandcamp, look up Business Casual. It's their most recent release. All right, boys and girls, we're 51 minutes in, and we're starting the fail bag. But last week, I put the show up really late, which I'm really sorry about. Oh my gosh. Is that the sound of doom? Is it the sound of doom? Because I can't stop now. No, we're in good shape. All right, so we're heading over to YouTube. I've only got a couple of comments. Like I was saying, last week I put the show up really late. It went up Thursday. It's supposed to go up Monday, so it's only been up for a few days, a couple days. So these are just the folks who were able to listen to it in that short period of time. So Alex Swingle writes, at minute 15, you broadcasting yourself playing games while streaming music. Pick an album that's available to listen to on Bandcamp. Play games for the entirety of that album, then post the link of the Bandcamp page in the details of the YouTube video. That way you can play the game, play music, have others synchronize the music you're listening to without getting flagged. Basically, Mystery Science Theater, the LP. Yeah, sounds fun. It sounds like a good time. I'm all for it. The only reason why I like streaming when it works is because you can do that and kind of have like a chat going. And it becomes a little more interactive. But I don't know. Maybe that's reaching for the stars. We have kind of an underground group here, which lends itself more to pre-recorded material rather than streaming. But yeah, hey, I'll give the Twitch tube thing another try. I've had fun with that in the past. Mecha Menace writes, a numpty would end the paragraph by making up some portmanteau using Inception, followed by an ellipsis. Swingle is not a numpty. Alright, the next one's from Mecha Menace. He writes, the first track would be perfect as an intro for Ninja 5.0. He's referring to, what did we listen to last week? I don't have it in front of me. I think he's referring to Aloe Island Posse. But anyway, let's get back to the comment. He writes, I don't have a SoundCloud. I've done some fun things with songs in my vids, like my Flash Gordon video or my Toonami remix introing past June pickups vid. You are correct. There is Brighter Synthwave. I don't really bookmark Synthwave stuff, so I can't recommend any of that off the top of my head. I'm not sure how much you're into swashbuckling these days, but you can always use an add-on/extension for your browser called Video Download Helper, which captures streams, audio as well as video, and downloads them to standalone MP3, MP4, WebM, etc. The tool detects multiple quality levels if available. That being said, most of these bands probably offer a higher quality render with the album than is streamed by the site. However, it still sounds very good to the guy who doesn't mind swashing in dangerous waters. Here's another cool one. I'd rather you listen while watching the music video, since I think that heavily influences how much I like it. It's Trey Cool. Stating the name of the track and artist would diminish the effect intrepid listeners get while seeking this one. So click on the link and enjoy. The rest of the artist, the rest of that artist is like he made some loops on a Korg. I would describe it as atmosphere. I guess you can get into it, but it's not something I would recommend as synthwave. Alright, Mecha Menace, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pause the recording, and I'm going to listen to this track in its entirety, as long as it's not like 20 minutes or so. Pausing now. Alright, we're back. I just listened to this whole thing, and if you want to check it out, it ran about 2.5 minutes. Let me just say, I really dug that. First of all, I would definitely call that synthwave. Here's some distinctions. It was very slow building, which is the reason why he's like, you got to just sit and stick with it and listen to the whole thing. And that's also the reason why I'm not bothering to play, like, hey, here's a little 5-second clip. This is a really slow building kind of thing, and that's where he gets the atmospheric idea from. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mecha Menace. But I'm down with that, man. It was really good. It had all, it ticked all the boxes. Try this, Mecha Menace. I run a multi-monitor setup, right? It's nothing too super fancy. I got 2 monitors, one in the middle, and then I got one on the right that's like at a, like a 30-degree tilt in. If you had a setup like this, you could take that, put it up on the right-hand monitor while you have something simple open to play on the main monitor. I do that kind of thing all the time. I could see playing, say, I don't know, Spy Hunter. That would be the game. Playing Spy Hunter and then just letting that run. Something like that. I think that would be cool. That was dope, man. I really dug that. Yeah, and that is, I see what you're saying about it. It sounded like he put some loops together. But, hey, man, that can be cool. Mecha Menace, my man, it's always good to hear from you, brother. Hope you're doing well. And we got one from Desm101. He writes, I'm a bit of a Discogs vulture, and many of the albums I've been trying to collect from obscure 90s and early 2000 labels only have CDs or rarely vinyl. I had an insane tape collection back in the day, but I took horrible care of them, and I was bad about repairing the tape when it broke. So I'm not really nostalgic for CDs, but it's one of the best formats you can get interesting music that's out of print and almost forgotten. It's true. Bandcamp is one of my favorites to get current content. Then he leaves a time signature of 1 hour and 11 minutes in. Yes, I got a disc of Sin and Punishment on Wii from Amazon, but I also managed to pick up the original N64 release as a download virtual console after the store closed. I used a video from Modern Vintage Gamer on how to hack the system. Winky face. Awesome. Congrats on getting some more fun out of your Wii. Those things are awesome systems. Especially nice to see people get access to the stuff that Nintendo kind of cut us off on. So that's awesome. Yeah, and I feel you on the CDs as well. Yeah, that's cool, man. It's nice to meet somebody else who digs like looking up stuff on Bandcamp, because it seems like there's so many artists out up on that website. It seems like when I look around, it seems like one of the cultural hubs for new music, at least new independent music. But I haven't met anybody in person who actually goes there and enjoys what's available. That seems like just the thing that I'm into. So that's awesome, and we are 58 minutes in, and you know what that means, boys and girls. Yep, it's that time again. By the way, Desm, good to hear from you, brother. Thanks for writing in. And whatever's brought you here, 59 minutes in to this episode of TCR. Oh, by the way, before I close the show, I updated the archive with probably the last, I think, 20 episodes were missing. So up until last week's episode, Tiger Claw Radio Archive is completely up to date. So go, if you want to dig through the backlog, you can go there and check it out. So whatever's brought you here, 59 minutes and 30 seconds into TCR, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're leaving this podcast and going to a good place. Whatever you got in front of you, whatever it is that you have to do, smash through it. Charge at it at full force. Make it a good week. I want you to know that I'm rooting for you. See you next Monday.